Spellcasting was great in the network test, and I hope it continues to be satisfying at release, especially late game. Charge spells finally make it into a Souls game. This feature was last seen in the Dark Souls 2 network test, but it was removed before release. I always thought it was a great idea. You have a choice between damage and cast speed. The FP cost stays the same between both versions. The stamina cost for spellcasting seems way lower than the earlier games. Damage, on the other hand, seems comparable to a regular melee attack. In Dark Souls 3, it was difficult to start the game as a spellcaster. Your damage was underwhelming from the start, and you needed to make significant sacrifices just to be viable. In the network test, at least, it's possible to exclusively use spells. Sorceries seem to have a high incidence of guard and posture breaks. This makes for reliable crowd control, and more consistent ways to interrupt large enemies. So far, incantations seem to yield the highest damage per FP, especially for spells like Beast Claw. Considering heals are also incantations, if you'd like to play as a pure caster, it might be best to start as Prophet or a similar class. Perhaps sorceries will have more utility to balance it out. Regardless of whether you focus on sorceries or incantations, neither seems as viable as relying purely on weapon skills. I'm hoping this changes by release, so spellcasting will be worth the stat investment and FP cost. At the very least, purecaster builds are viable simply through the relatively low FP costs and ease of acquiring cerulean flasks. Attunement slots are a bit of a concern though. They're no longer acquired through leveling up, and instead must be found throughout the world. I wonder how soon and how easily you can get more slots. I also wonder how many slots you'll start with. In the network test, all classes start with 3. I'm also concerned about having schools of magic that don't require any significant stat investment. Pyromancy in the earlier games could easily outdamage other spells. In Elden Ring, items like the heavy meteorite fragment seem to fill this role. Luckily, they're consumable items, and not very FP efficient.